Can you start by telling me about your experience with DevOps, particularly in a software as service environment?
Yes. In my previous organization, I was responsible for building a SaaS infrastructure in GCP for our online documentation signing product. There were a lot of complexities involved for deploying such an infrastructure. For a few of them include configuring highly available and fault-tolerant compute systems, maintaining a proper isolation between consumer data, ensuring developers can properly test and deploy the code to production like lower environments so we can seamlessly and quickly promote features to production environments.
That sounds like an impressive project. Can you delve a bit deeper into how you utilized infrastructure as code during this project and which tools did you use to implement it?
Sure, we use Terraform to deploy our infrastructure. Our Terraform code was organized by modules that are responsible for a chunk of infrastructure resource. For example, a database module, a storage module, etc. This code was checked into GitHub for version control, and we used GitHub Actions to deploy code so as to ensure consistency for our Terraform state files. Also, we stored our Terraform state files in Terraform Cloud. This allowed us to secure our state files while maintaining easy access to it when running Terraform plan or apply.
That's great to hear. Let's switch gears to the application deployment aspect. Can you explain how you have implemented CI/CD pipelines in the past and which tools have you used?
We used GitHub to version control our application written in Golang. Our GitHub workflow involved a separate branch for development and production environments. Each feature had to be merged to development branch before making into production. These branches had automated workflow that compiled the Go program and containerized the binaries for deployment. Once containerized, the deployment workflow automatically pushed these containers into a private repository. During development, we also built an automated integration testing workflow, which would deploy the application to a development environment via GitHub Actions and run synthetic tests.
Thank you for elaborating. It's important to monitor and log applications and infrastructure in a software as service environment. Can you describe your experience with monitoring and logging and which tools you have used?
We used Grafana and Prometheus to monitor our infrastructure. Prometheus would scrape the metrics from our workload and Grafana would monitor them. We had built alerts for different metrics and metrics events and metrics threshold, which would send a notification to our Slack channel. For logging, we used open source logging tool called Loki. We chose this tool because it was fully open source and cloud native and very lightweight. Its integration with Grafana was also an added bonus for us, so we could see all the logs and metrics in the same Grafana dashboard.
That's comprehensive. And now let's consider an outage scenario. How would you handle a situation where your application is down in the production environment? Can you explain your troubleshooting approach?
When there's an outage in our production environment, our alerting system notifies us via Slack channel. When I'm troubleshooting an outage, I first look at whether the cloud provider experienced an outage. Then I check our synthetic tests to see what type of requests are failing. If it's a customer reported incident, they usually mention the issue as well, which helps. If the outage was caused by a failed deployment, we collaborate with the developers and quickly discuss whether we can roll back or fix forward. From a troubleshooting perspective, we use our Grafana dashboard to track different key metrics which help us make more informed diagnosis of the issue.
Excellent. You've discussed your experience with Google Cloud Platform. Are you also familiar with other cloud platforms, such as AWS or Azure? If so, can you share an experience or project that involved these platforms?
Yes, I have some experience in AWS Cloud. I built my hobby project using AWS Lambda and CloudFront. It was a static blogging website that was generated using Hugo. Then I used Terraform to deploy a Lambda function that would act as a backend for my blog's frontend. The frontend was served via AWS CloudFront CDN service. This allowed me to use the Lambda function to provide a simple API for counting my YouTube channel subscription on my blog page.
That's an interesting project. Let's talk about security now. Can you share how you have approached securing your infrastructure and applications in your previous roles, especially in a software as a service setting?
Sure. For our SaaS product, we had customer data isolation and customer data security as our top priority. We used GCP Cloud Armor web application firewall for securing our front end for malicious actors. We continuously monitored our request metrics and dynamically adjusted our rate limiting to prevent DDoS attacks. For securing our customers' data from being read locally, we encrypted all of our customers' data at rest, which would only be readable by using a unique encryption phrase from the customer's account. From data isolation perspective, we used similar technique which only allowed the customer to access the data. Our infrastructure was constantly monitored for any vulnerabilities in our running containers, and we locked down our compute nodes inside a private subnet.
Those are commendable security measures. In terms of collaboration, can you tell us about a time you had to work closely with developers to troubleshoot or optimize a service, and how you went about that?
Sure. In terms of collaboration with developers, we collaborated via Slack. One time we had a minor incident where one of the customer had lost access to their premium features. I worked closely with one of the lead developers to troubleshoot the issue. She provided valuable insight into how the feature was implemented, and I was able to share insights into how the data was stored and accessed. We shared notes, and turns out one of the new paid features was only being applied to newer customers. So we rolled back the release until it was fixed.
Good collaboration is indeed essential. Now, considering your vast experience in the DevOps field, how do you keep up with the ever-evolving trends and technologies? Do you follow any blogs, influencers, or participate in forums or conferences?
To keep up with the ever-changing trends and technologies, I regularly visit technology-related forums and interact with the other DevOps engineers. I also contribute to some open source projects which help me stay updated with any new trends and technologies. Additionally, I write blogs and make YouTube videos which help me share knowledge as well as learn new technologies along the way.
That's excellent. As my last question, considering the different hats a DevOps engineer may have to wear, how do you manage your tasks and priorities when there are conflicting demands on your time?
When it comes to managing priorities, I try to focus on what brings the most value to the team I work with. If an automated pipeline helps a developer release a feature 2 hours in advance, that is a value worth adding. On a day-to-day basis, I've had to work with database systems, networking issues, debugging code, etc., which are all different roles. Overall, I focus on maximizing value for my time, which range from building basic automation pipelines to creating entirely new infrastructure system for new end-to-end testing, for example.
Thank you for your responses. Based on your answers, you have demonstrated a solid understanding of DevOps practices, tools, and methodologies. You have considerable experience in managing software as service infrastructure, implementing CI/CD, monitoring, logging, and handling outages. Your experiences with AWS and GCP and the inclusion of security at all stages is highly commendable. Your ability to work and communicate effectively with developers and prioritize tasks efficiently also speaks volumes about your suitability for this role. In conclusion, I would consider your application for the DevOps Engineer role at our software as a service company to be successful. We would be glad to move forward with your application and discuss the next steps. Please note that this evaluation may be followed by further rounds of technical interviews. Congratulations.
Well, thank you.